Will you call the roll, please, Secretary?
Sure. Harry Borgman?
Here.
John Schneider?
Here.
Nate Mueller?
Here.
Pat Kapla?
Paul, but yeah.
Sorry. Sorry, can't even read. Sorry about that.
I am here.
Mike Eberl indicated he was not going to be present tonight, and so did Alderman Fisher, and Alderman Witzel. And Alderman Fisher is here, and utility staff is as well.
Good. Yeah, thank you. Was the meeting appropriately noticed, Nick?
Yes, it was.
It was. Okay. Good. At this time, we will recognize members of the public who have indicated a desire to address the commission. Are there any people is there anybody from the public here to address the commission?
No.
Anybody? Okay. Seeing no one, and we'll move on to Commissioner, Council, and staff comments. Do we have any comments from the council or commission?
No.
Any staff comments?
No, none for this evening.
None this evening. Good. Next item on the agenda is a quarterly update from the Economic Development Board.
All right, that's mine.
That's yours, Paul?
Yep.
Okay.
A few items tonight. Josh, as you know, has gone on, moved on to greener pastures as such. And with the changes in city staff and his departure, I think just to say up front, it's moving forward. There may be a slowdown in some new items just because it's, it's all that changeover that we're trying to work through until Josh's position gets replaced. A reflection of that is this month's EDB meeting was canceled, and Steve Barg is sort of serving as the interim person in the role, but he's got a few hats going, so a few things in the air. I do think, however, that work on existing projects continues, and some of those are, there are plans still to implement a mixed-use TIF district in the southeast part of the city, and that'll be a mixed use of housing and commercial industrial. I think we'll end up with 50 to 60 units of, depending on one's definition, affordable housing, but housing that isn't on the high end, let's put it that way. And hopefully those units would be built in about a 3 to 5 year time frame. So that would help somewhat with our shortage of housing, but it won't happen tomorrow. It'll take a few years to make that come through. Speaking of housing, Daniel's Addition, we were at about 15 lots that had either been sold or had offers on. I think May 1st is their date to get there to complete the sale, so that's coming up pretty quick. I think last I heard, although like I said we missed a meeting this month, those sales were progressing, so good news on that front. The multi-use sports facility project that I think was talked about here several months ago and we've been talking about at EDB is gradually moving forward. They're looking to identify land, develop more complete plans, and set a plan to approach potential donors. I think the basic plan for the project is to have a 4-sheet curling facility and 2 sheets of ice. One would be used for hockey or skating year-round. The other would convert to multi-use gym space for about half the year. All those facilities would have a shared locker room, shared space for concessions, and shared meeting areas to kind of take advantage of everything in one building concept. And then the West 2nd Street redevelopment plan, there's a meeting set for April 27th with the EDB and with the Planning Commission to begin to discuss the redevelopment plans for that area. So that too is moving forward. Those are the main items. Either of you guys have anything to add?
I do not.
Okay. Okay.
Very good. Thank you, Paul.
Yep.
At this time, we'd like to have we have a building update. Nick, do you have?
Yep, sure. So everything's moving forward smoothly. In the packet, I gave you an update of all the various activities. As you can imagine, we're getting close to the end, if you will, as far as the office space goes. We are keeping our fingers crossed that we'll get the occupancy permit within the next week here or so. couple little odds and ends that have to be taken care of, and then the elevator inspections, the major item that has to get completed later this week. But as long as all that goes together, we should be in a good spot. Pretty exciting right now. There's quite a buzz going on throughout the utility with our staff members, helping, getting stuff moved around. As you can see, we have a lot of post-it notes on things in here, kind of indicating where they'll go in the new space. So a lot of activity going on, and next month, hopefully, we'll be in the new space. So.
Good. You have a date, select a date just next month, or?
On the next commission meeting, we would hope that we'll be in the new space. If everything holds as they've told us, we expect it's possible we get occupancy on Thursday this week. So.
Moving on. Any other comments regarding the building update? And we've got some annual operations statistics. Next item on the agenda. Nick?
Yes, so this is annually we provide these statistics to the commission for your just to give you an update on how things are trending as far as from an operational standpoint. So I threw them up on the screen just to make them a little bit bigger, and that way it's a little easier to follow along. So first one is our annual water loss statistics, and as you can see here in 2021, we saw a sizable drop, and a lot of that can be attributed to we repaired that main break, service leaks, I should say, that was on Central Avenue this past year. And one thing to note is that 2021, we didn't fix that leak until April, so it's possible that this year, assuming we hold where we're going, we could be into maybe in the single digits from a leak perspective. So. Yeah, we're currently in the 2% range, so if we can keep tight like that, we should have a good year from a loss perspective.
Is it through March then?
Yeah.
Okay.
The next graph that we provided is it's kind of a summary of the number of main breaks per year. So you can see we have 2022s in there year to date. I should say I believe the main break schedule actually runs from the middle of summer to middle of summer. So that's why there's some 2022 numbers in there as well. Overall, I think we're trending in the right direction. There's a lot of variables that go in, obviously. I think weather is a major impact. And then on the other end, as far as the reduction, I think a lot of that has to do with our proactive rebuilding and replacement of the infrastructure is helping with the reduction that we're seeing.
Question, Nick.
Yeah.
From that point of view, generally when it's a water main break, is it always an old water main typically?
It depends on what your definition of old is. It mostly is about pipe material. Because the way they used to make sand cast iron pipe back in the 20s to about World War II, 45-ish in there, that sand cast iron is still holding up pretty well. We do have some breaks that happen on that, but it's not as often as you think. Then there's what's called the spun cast iron. That was from like 1945 to 1970 about. That's the stuff that's really breaking, and that's why we went in for the rate case back, was it 6-7 years ago now, to try to replace that as fast as we possibly can, because that's the stuff that's really breaking. It's just a thinner cast iron, and it doesn't hold up as well over time. So actually the really old pipe is holding up fairly well, but that, we'll call it the medium old pipe, is not, and that's what we're really working on.
So the next graph then that we have is, this one shows the rainfall along with the pumpage values. So the rainfall is the blue line, and then the green line is what shows the how much we pumped that year. And if you look at the last handful of years here or so, you can see that the green line is relatively flat, which shows kind of correlates with our sales, and that it's relatively flat. As you can see, if you go back into the 90s, we peaked out and we were going down as conservation was going on and continues to go on. But I think the good thing is that economic development and maybe some of the conservation efforts aren't as great. We're starting to see a levelization as far as the pumpage goes. Yeah.
What do you glean out of this then? Is that more of like using to forecast if we need additional wells at some point too then? Or is that, I guess, what do you try to glean out of that report?
Well, I think John, correct me if I'm wrong, but rainfall is one thing that we're watching because, obviously there is a correlation there, so we want to make sure that, we're maintaining it. We don't go through drought seasons or maybe heavier rain events. If we see years where there's a lot more rain events, it's possible we would see a reduction in pumpage because less people are having to water their yards or also their flowers and so forth. So we have that side of it. I don't know, John, if there's any other things that come.
A couple of things that we watching on the green line. It's a sales, economic indicator what our future financials might be. As you can see, if you look in before 2010, we were on a consistent downcline, and now we've kind of went up a little bit, slightly flattened out, so we can at least maintain the status quo. So it's a economic indicator, so to speak. That, and like you mentioned, we do watch that line to see how our wells are holding up, and if we need to go get one as we watch that line. If it starts going up and the wells are maintaining their capacity, then yeah, we need to go get something. But being that it's at a relatively speaking flat indicator, I would say our wells are good for the quite distant future.
Thanks.
And I should note that obviously this is a high-level graph, and there's a number of other analysis that we're looking at it, in a much, finite area, if you will. I mean, John and his team is tracking static levels of each well individually to see how they're holding up over time, to see if maybe it needs refurbishment, maybe it's a well that's ran its course, and then obviously looking at daily pumpage to see how much water we're putting into the system compared to what our capacity is from wells, and then that'll help determine, maybe we need to put in, new infrastructure as well. So a lot of things going on there. The next one is a two-part graph. So this is showing outages on the electric side. So the first one is the customer interruptions, the number of customers. So you can see it's about, in 2020, we were about a half, if you will. So about half our customers are seeing an interruption. And the green line and the red line are denoting both the state and national averages. And then the bottom graph is showing the number of minutes. So you can see, again, our blue dot here, we're running in the 40-minute-ish range, if you will, whereas the state average is nearly 100 minutes, and the national average is well off at the top of the chart there. The reason it's from 2020 and not 2021 is, while we have our statistics for 2021, we don't have state or national averages from 2021 yet. That'll come late this year, early next year. So that's why you see the delay in there. But just showing, again, the reliability, and obviously that reliability and having the lights on helps economically for our customers, because obviously if the lights are on, they're able to function in their home or produce products or work in the business setting as well.
And speaks well of our operation.
Definitely. Thank you. The next graph is our system losses. So there's three different lines there. One showing the 1-year average, the 3-year average, and then the life average. I think the big thing here is you can see the line is turning down to starting to flatten out a little bit. I looked this morning at some national statistics, and I would say that typically municipalities, utilities are in the range of 2 to 2.5%, up to about 8% is the general range. So you can see that we're in the lower end of that, which is a good spot to be. And that speaks to a number of areas. One is our tree trimming, because if you have trees that are touching the lines, and sometimes you see them arcing and sparking, that can create additional losses. It goes to Tony and his team in properly sizing equipment. If you oversize it too much, it creates more losses on the system that are unnecessary. And then the other part is it speaks to our rebuilding, getting rid of the older cables, things of that sort, and replacing it with new infrastructure. And then the last is, then there's the load growth. So this is the green line denotes our energy usage annually, and then the blue is the summer peak, and then the winter is the red is the winter peak. So the demand, the blue and red are both with the scale on the left in megawatts, and the green is on the scale on the right with the gigawatt hours. There, I think you can see from our energy perspective, levelized as well. I think again that a lot of that can be attributed to the conservation efforts that have gone on. I think the other piece that plays into this more so in the peaks, the demand peaks, is temperature. Winter, typically, if it's really, really cold, you see a lot more space heating going on, so that we see more utilization that way. And then the counter in summer when it's very really hot and you see a lot of air conditioning being ran for a continuous period of time, that's where you'll see higher energy usage and higher peaks. So definitely a correlation there between the weather and our customer utilization. And I should say there is a slight rebound as you look at like the utilization of the energy. We dipped down here slightly, and I think that some of that could be attributed to COVID, and it rebounded a little bit last year. And then the last one is a lot of numbers there, a little bit more detailed. This is just showing the financial analysis of the M1 power plant, and just bringing it up here on my screen so I can see it a little closer. I think you can, if you look at the bottom, basically the net revenues and net cash flows, you can see that there was a pretty sizable increase from year over year. I think the two major items that occurred last year, one was the refinancing of the debt. So that took off a lot of interest expense. So that's one of the major drivers, because you can look that we went from interest expense from 1.16 million down to 260,000. So that was a sizable drop in our interest expense. And then the other thing that happened in 2021 was operationally the plant ran considerably more, and you can see that in the top line, which shows our revenue from operating went from $162,000 in 2020 up to $623,000 in 2021. Should note, though, that there is a corresponding increase in expenses related to the fuel. So you'll see the natural gas went up. I know this is a lot of numbers and a lot of items here. I think the big takeaway is that ultimately the investment in the power plant, any of the revenues from the power plant, those are given back to our customer base. They go back and they basically help reduce purchase power, which is all part of what our customers pay on their monthly bill. So that's and having it's an asset and it's showing a net positive return that's ultimately going back to our customers. So it's been a great investment and been obviously paying for itself very well.
Do you remember, Nick, and this is, if you don't know, that's fine. Do you remember what it cost to build that and get it up and running to be operable?
I believe it was the total project that would go somewhere between 35 and 40 million, if memory serves correct. However, some of that was for substation assets that eventually were turned over to American Transmission Company. So there's some different pieces there, but the overall, that whole site was a green site, just trees and such, and to go, the whole installation costing that 35 to 40 million.
So getting at least 10% return then.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Some good numbers. Any other comments regarding operation of the M1? Okay, thanks, Nick.
Oh, I do have one more question. Do you know, Nick, why the umbrella insurance went up like 30-some%?
Yeah, Kent?
Well, the insurance market on the additional coverage that is required as part of operating M1, that it's been more difficult to obtain more recently, and corresponding with that, the insurance cost has gone up. Every year, our insurance agent is looking out there to see if there's better options.
Pretty niche thing to cover, I suppose.
Yeah, and it's a pretty sizable coverage for the facility as far as the liability limit, and that helps drive that premium as well.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Okay, next item on the agenda is a discussion on the commissioners' tablets and our laptops. I see that Nathan's got a summary of his review, whether Chromebooks or Surface Pros or other devices.
Yeah, I thought we'd just let Nate maybe just briefly recover what he provided.
Yeah, so if you recall back to last meeting, you gave me some further guidance on kind of what you'd be looking for the devices. One of those being that you'd prefer to kind of get away from the Apple devices and maybe take a look at just Chromebooks versus the Surface tablets. So what I did is I took a look at the Surface Go 3s, which are smaller, a little more portable than, say, the Pro 7 or the Pro 8s that may be around staff. The size for those is maybe just a little bit bigger than what your iPads are by maybe, say, a half an inch or so. They are sold without a keyboard. Keyboards can be bought for about $100 for those. Whether you want one or not is your judgment. There's two different types for processors in those. Looking at Passmark's data, which basically does kind of like a capability test on those processors. They're around about the same. The big changes are between the hard drive and the memory. I also spelled out some stuff for the Chromebooks as well. One of them with basically the budget processor and the other two with more capable processors. I guess I'm open to any questions anybody might have on those. That's kind of what I've come up with.
Discussion?
Do you guys have a preference between Windows or Chrome?
I don't.
I like Windows better, but I'm open to either.
Yeah. Yeah, same here. I'm flexible either way.
I've had mine for 8 years, and it's just a pretty basic. It's that iPad. I don't need anything. I use it for the email, official emails, and for getting the documents for this meeting, any other communication we have between utilities and myself. I don't need anything fancy, a $100 machine, if that does what I've been using it for me.
My preference was just maybe a little bit bigger screen is all. The operating system, that's great to me.
I think that's, if there's any drawback to any machine, any laptop or a tablet, it's the operating system that goes, it's outdated. And at
Well, I
some
would say
point,
if it comes down to familiarity on operating system, if you've used Windows for a very long time, it might be easier to get onboarded with a device like that as opposed to, say, Chrome being just a little bit different, there being a bit of a learning curve on those two.
Yeah, to me, either option 1 or 2 under the Surface Go 3s would be fine. I mean, and I don't need a keyboard. This one hasn't worked since I had it, so I've gotten used to, doing on the screen, and I'd use the screen at home, so.
that would be my preference.
Either of those,
Surface,
option 1 or 2.
I
Yeah.
don't need a keyboard either.
Do you know what size screens those are, Nate?
10.5s, I believe.
Oh,
So about
The
what this
iPads
is.
are, I believe, 9.8.
Yeah.
I think.
And these are, the ones we're using now, are they by 10.5? Or,
Those are 9.8.
okay, so
So just a little bit smaller than what the Surface Go would be.
Surface Go would be bigger, but
the
not.
Surface would be bigger than
Just a
these.
little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, by about an inch.
Well, I guess we should decide here.
Yeah, I think we need to do something.
Yeah. So I'll entertain a motion for any one of these. I prefer that Surface Pro, as I mentioned, just a basic tablet for option 1.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we go with the Surface Go 3 option 1 for basically $400, $399.99. So it's without a keyboard, but in the configuration that's there.
Sounds good. Do I hear a second to that motion?
A second. I think it's $4.99 just, I think. No keyboard.
If purchased with a keyboard, it would be $400.
Keyboard is
Oh, it is?
$499,
Oh.
but without a keyboard is $399.
I got you. Oh, I'm blind.
Oh, no, you didn't read far, well, you read too far, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Nate, do you recommend between the two? I mean, like, sometimes I err going a little bit bigger than, just personally, than what I think I need, just because in the past, it seems like they get clogged up quickly and then they get frustrating.
Sure. I guess I'll circle back to the Passmark tests on those processors. They just give them kind of like a rating number. So between that option 1 and option 2, you're looking at a difference of I think it's like 2856 for the option 1, and then a 3162, I believe it is, for option 2, for option 1 versus option 2. So you get a little bit of a bump in processing power, but not as much as you probably think.
Okay.
Well, you get double the Good memory size, too.
That is true.
You do get double memories. And well, I guess I can go with either one.
Okay.
Yeah, I can second that, yeah.
You're gonna
It should
second
work.
I move for option 1.
Okay.
If we want to go to option 2, let's vote this one down and we'll try again. But
Okay, then, is there any other discussion?
Do we want to get them with the keyboard or without the keyboard?
I said
Is there
without.
a choice?
Well-
Or do we, all are the same? All the same?
The motion is for without the
Without
keyboard.
keyboard? Okay, okay.
So,
And just to clarify, is that 4, because I know that Mike tends to not use one at all.
That's what he indicated.
that's what he
Yeah.
indicated. He didn't need anything because he doesn't use it. He doesn't use the one he has.
you're right, 4. Okay, then we should
Got to vote?
vote for the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Nate.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Very good. Next item on the agenda is the presentation that is going in front of the council, I think, what, in 2 weeks?
Yes.
Value of the utility.
Yes, so Jess has been working hard and diligently on putting this all together, and we didn't have it quite ready last week, so I thought we would just play it here as part of the meeting, and then basically looking for any of your feedback as we go through it, if there's anything you'd like to tweak or adjust, and then that'll be what we present to the Common Council in 2 weeks, so you get to see it twice.
Shares the value provided to one of 3 identified stakeholders: the city, the Marshfield community, or MU customers. This year, our focus is on the city. We offer a relationship much like Dorothy in the classic movie Wizard of Oz. If you recall, Dorothy embarks on a journey to the Emerald City, and along the way, she meets Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion. Together, they all make it through several challenges to make it to the Emerald City and accomplish goals they each individually are working toward. MU, like Dorothy, has its own goals and wants to support our stakeholders to achieve theirs. Mike Eberl, President of the Marshfield Utilities Commission, will be answering some questions for us about the value MU provides to the city. Mike, tell us about some of the ways MU offers a supportive role for the city of Marshfield.
Marshfield Utilities regards the strong working relationships with city departments as a mutual benefit. For example, we coordinate water main replacements with scheduled street rebuilds to minimize both main replacement and street repair costs, which also reduces interruptions for citizens in the community. Cooperation with city departments to work on projects such as the Monarch Conservation Garden, water and electric education, and drug sorts for the drug take-back program. Additionally, some utility staff members have participated in the interview process for multiple city positions, acting as an extra resource. Being connected online continues to grow in demand, and the dedicated fiber connectivity that Marshfield Utilities provides is reliable, secure, and meets the exact needs of select customers. Along with the city, customers include the Marshfield Clinic Health System, Country Wireless, ATC, the Marshfield School District, and rail transport.
Thank you, Mike. It sounds like MU is a strong partner to the city. Are there ways that MU helps save the city money?
In the partnership with the city, we share the costs for invoicing by including both water and wastewater service on one bill for customers. If the city did their own billing for wastewater, they would need to install a meter at each property, maintain the meters, invest in billing software, and have account reps to handle questions. This process is also more convenient for customers. In circumstances of mutual benefit, the city and MU share the cost of certain expenses. Some of the shared costs include the annual subscription cost of the Geographic Information System, commonly known GIS mapping software. Approximately every 5 years, the city and Marshfield Utilities partner with Wood County to have an updated aerial photo completed that is a valuable resource to assist staff through the mapping software. Marshfield Utilities also supports a portion of the cost for the electrical inspector position eliminating the need for both entities to employ a person for that role. In several situations, Marshfield Utility shares resources with the city to eliminate some redundancy and expense. For example, the utility poles support not only the equipment necessary to provide electricity, but also support various roadway signs, including speed limits, parking requirements, and traffic lights. This saves the city the additional cost of installing and maintaining these additional signposts. The ponds, once used for cooling support of the old power plant, now are affectionately referred to as the upper and lower ponds at the Wildwood Zoo. The ponds are complementary features of the zoo and park that citizens and travelers enjoy visiting. In 2014, as part of an expansion of wellhead protection, Marshfield Utilities made a donation of $175,000 to support the Hamas Park. We continue to contribute $18,000 annually for maintenance costs.
That is very interesting. I bet a lot of Marshfield residents didn't know that MU shared so many resources with the city, or that the ponds were once part of the old power plant. Mike, are there other ways that MU supports the city?
Being a reliable source to aid in fire protection, radio communications, and community amenities is another way that Marshfield Utilities supports the city. There are nearly 1,000 fire hydrants that the utility maintains across the city, ensuring that the Marshfield Fire Department will have quick and ready access to water to fight fires. The city has supported MU's two-way radio equipment located on the top of the old City Hall building for many years. MU supports the antennas and associated equipment for the city radio project for the Marshfield Police Department in 2 different locations. One tower located at Marshfield Utilities' main office, and the other on McMillan Water Tower. Some of the local city-owned amenities like Vanderhaven Waters and Wenzel Plaza rely on safe and reliable water supply to provide visitors with great experiences and everlasting memories.
We have heard a lot about the different ways MU partners with the city, provides reliable water and fiber connectivity. What can you tell us about the electrical part of the utility?
Our electrical department is diligent in preventative measures to provide reliable power. Marshfield has fewer outages per customer and average less than 40 minutes to restore power. In 2020, Marshfield Utilities had an annual frequency of outages of 0.56 per customer, while surrounding area providers ranged from 0.71 to 1.01. The average duration of an outage for Marshfield Utilities is 38 minutes. Cooperatives and investor-owned utilities of central Wisconsin averaged 93 to 126 minutes. Along with the higher than average reliability, MU is able to provide very economical electric rates in comparison to cooperatives and investor-owned utilities. The last electrical rate increase was over 5 years ago in July 2017. On this central Wisconsin residential electric rate comparison map, you can see that for $100 a month, Marshfield Utilities residential customers would receive 1,121 kilowatt hours. For that same amount of electricity, customers of cooperatives and investor-owned utilities in Wausau and Stevens Point paid $147.90. In Sherwood, they paid $154.54. Colby and Neilsville, $159.77. And Pittsville, $161.75. The municipal utility in Wisconsin Rapids charged $120.91 for the same amount of kilowatt hours. The city and its various departments have 106 electric services ranging from general service to large power customers and street area lights. Based on 2021 reporting, Marshfield Utility Services were billed at $511,000. If the city had been billed as an investor-owned utilities rate, it would have been $649,000. This saved the city $137,000 for the year, or 27% less than an investor-owned utility cost.
Thank you, Mike, for those insights on MU's reliable and safe electrical services. Tell us, how does MU meet its mission to provide value and enhance quality of life in the community in partnership with the city?
We have a mutual goal with the city to promote the improvement and growth of Marshfield. One way that Marshfield Utilities contributes to that goal is with an annual dividend paid to the city for economic development. Over the last 12 years, the dividend payments to the city total about $2.7 million. These dividend payments have supported the Downtown Facade Program, the Downtown Master Plan Update, Tools for Business Success website, Wenzel Plaza, the recent housing study, the Housing Incentive Program, and the city subdivision. Additionally, Marshfield Utilities makes an annual payment in lieu of taxes, or pilot payment, as required by the Public Service Commission. This payment is an important source of revenue supporting the city's general fund. If the electric utility were owned by an investor-owned utility, like Alliant or Wisconsin Public Service Corporation, there would be no pilot payment to the city. Instead, the city would receive a utility aid payment from the Wisconsin Department of Revenue. We estimate, based on information provided by staff at the Wisconsin Department of Revenue, that the city's utility aid payment would be approximately $155,000. The 2021 total pilot payment is $1,938,288. $695,852 of those dollars come from the water utility. $1,242,436 come from the electric utility.
As Mike shared the ways that MU provides value to the city, we hope you can see that we are committed to maintaining relationships as we continue on the journey to reach our goals. Just like Dorothy was to her friends traveling the yellow brick road, Marshfield Utilities is a valuable ally of the city, community, and its customers, providing economical services, collaboration, and financial support, helping to make Marshfield the Emerald City of Wisconsin, because there is no place like home.
Very good.
Yes.
A little different than what we've had in years past. It's refreshing.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, looks good. Nice job.
Very clear and very understandable.
Yeah, we kind of gave Jess the reins to go and
Nice job.
win a new direction, and yeah, very good product.
You're a videographer. It's nice. I like it. Yeah. Just data-wise, Nick, question. Would the private or investor-owned utility, they would also pay property tax on anything they owned outside of the $155,000 that the state would give to the city for the pilot?
Ken, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they would pay property tax probably on a building per se, like an office building, if they had one.
Okay. But then like the lines, there wouldn't be?
No.
Okay.
That's all goes through the state, through the Department of Revenue.
Wow, I didn't realize that's a huge difference. 1.8 million almost per year.
Yeah, and I think just to clarify, the water side of the pilot would still remain the same because obviously the water would stay. So of the 1.24 million that's electric, that would drop to the 155,000.
Okay.
So it's about a delta of 1.1 million, but obviously very sizable. That coupled with the rates and everything else, it's a yeah.
If they did have a building, it would have to be a huge building.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, hard to speculate what they're.
To make up for that $1 million.
Oh yeah, you're right.
That's good to know.
Very good. So that's in a couple of weeks.
Yep, that'll be on the 26th of, so yeah, in just over 2 weeks. Yep.
Next item on the agenda is job orders.
Yeah, so tonight we have 3 of them. I know the online only showed 1, but we actually have 3 of them for your consideration tonight. So the first one I have is job orders 5859, which is water main replacement, 17th to Peach on 17th Street. I'm sorry, 17th Street, Maple to Peach. This is to work in combination with the city is doing a full reconstruct. This is in the fairgrounds area. The total cost of the project is $394,996.52. Unfortunately, this is considerably more than what we had budgeted. The original budget was for $209,000. The reason for the differences really can be attributed to about 2 or 3 different items. First, since we did the budgeting last fall, we've seen price increases come through on ductile iron. We've had ductile iron on order for projects, and they've called and told us basically we're going to raise the rates, and we don't really have much recourse. They said if you don't want to pay for the increased rates, then we'll just cancel the order and we'll move it on to somebody else. So unfortunately, that's kind of forced our hand a little bit. Obviously, labor increases is something that's we're seeing throughout. And then the last piece is the scope change. There was a segment of the project where we had hoped to reuse the existing pipe. However, once the city was doing their design, as you can imagine, water main, we don't need to have gravity. Obviously, we're using the pressure of the system, whereas the wastewater needs to have gravity. And there was some areas where there was conflicts identified that required us to relocate, or I should say replace some of the infrastructure. So that's the bad news. The good news is we do have a project in the list, a Maple project that was in the budget for over $250,000 that will be delayed into a future year. So that provides us some additional dollars to help cover the cost increase in this project. The next job order I have is 5855, which is East Grant, Peach to Cedar. Again, a water main project that's in combination with the city's mill and overlay. This project, the total cost is $184,584.59. This is slightly above what we had budgeted. We had budgeted $177,000, so about a $7,000 to $8,000 increase. Again, this is due to those cost increases that I mentioned on some of the material. And the difference there will again be covered by that delay of the Maple project that I mentioned earlier. And then the last project I have is job order 5856, which is East Franklin, Peach to Cedar. Again, this is another project that's in combination with the city's of Marshfield's mill and overlay. The project cost, job order cost is $141,070.55. This project wasn't originally budgeted. However, given the Maple project that I talked about earlier, along with delaying some vehicle replacements, we should be able to fit this into the budget, or within our budget, capital budget, to go ahead with the project. So those are the 3 I have for you for consideration.
Okay, I need a motion to approve those 3 job orders. Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Paul?
I'll second it.
Second by John. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried.
And Harry, if I can mention just a couple items, just kind of relates to the job orders, or I guess just in cost. I think one is vehicles. So one thing that we'll probably bring forth at some point in the future here is a discussion about vehicles and budgeting. Obviously, in the past, we would budget for them in the capital cycle, in November, December, get approval, and then in the following year, go ahead and order them and take receipt of the vehicle. Unfortunately, given the lead time issues that are going on right now, we could order it could be over 12 months before we actually receive it. So we're trying to understand if we're budgeting for it in 2021, but we don't take receipt of it until 2022 or so on and so forth. We have to figure out how we get the right approvals and make sure we set the stage, if you will, accordingly. So that's one thing that we'll bring up at a point down the road. And then the other is just the price increases that we're starting to see. Like I mentioned, the ductile water main is one of them on the water side. On the electric side, what we're seeing is electric transformers. Their price has doubled or even tripled, and their lead times have gone from 10 to 12 weeks to over a year. It's just been it's a supply and demand, and that's part of the issue. The supply issue is multiple facets to it. One, at the federal level, they increased standard requirements, so the grades of steel that could be used to manufacture the transformer, that pool, if you will, of steel manufacturers is limited, so there's less suppliers that way. Plus, I also believe that there's at least 1 or maybe even 2 steel mills that are located in Ukraine, traveling there in the country, So obviously that's limiting supply as well. So I know Tony and his team is working diligently trying to figure out ways to make sure that we don't have any short-term impacts, and also forecasting forward forward-looking. So I think we're in a good spot now. I could see when we get into the capital budgeting time later this year that we might have to sizably increase our transformer budgets to help offset some of those cost changes. And And then the other piece of this is that we've been reaching out to developers and, that are maybe having projects, just to let them know they need to get to us sooner than later so that we can get those in the pipeline. We're a part of various national level, like listservs, if you will, and there's countless. I mean, almost not a day goes by where someone's not looking for infrastructure to help support some development. So this is an issue that's on our radar, and I guess just something we want to put out there so you're aware of it. So thank you for letting me.
What's our inventory of transformers?
We keep a pretty sizable inventory. We try to make sure we have spares, and then obviously whatever we plan for construction. So we're in a decent spot there. I think a lot of times, while we may not have, we need this size transformer, any of them that are bigger than that could potentially be used. So we do have some luxury that way. And we know of inventory on the field that could be changed out as well if there was a need. So we have, like I said, Tony and his team pulled together a number of different options to help make sure, to mitigate the risk, at least short term. And then, like I said, the long term is to unfortunately increase the budget so that we can continue the flow. I think one of the big issues that we have to hope for is that it's a mild hurricane season. I think if there's a huge hurricane season and the demand for transformers, that could create even a greater bottleneck, unfortunately. So just something that we're watching and trying to navigate, but it's an issue.
Do we have arrangements with other utilities as a source for transformers if we need one?
Yeah, we do. The tricky thing with transformers is that so the voltage that goes into your house, the 120, 240, that's obviously standard. But the voltage on the top side of it, the high voltage that we work with, or our staff works with, that's not uniform, if you will. So there are a number of different voltage levels that are out there. So within the state, I think there's like 5 or 6 other utilities, like Wisconsin Rapids and Manitowoc, that are similar. And we have good working relationships with them. However, if there's a storm or if they have a big need, or so while there's cooperation there, there's also the understanding that
their own needs.
Potentially, yes.
Any other job orders? That's it, isn't it?
That was it. Thank you.
Yeah. Bills and payroll.
Bills have been reviewed and certified proper for payment.
Okay.
One question, I think it was on the bills.
Yeah.
The March payments. How does Viaduct Bar get a refund of $826?
Don't know exactly, but typically what that would be is a deposit. When most commercial customers start their business, we request a deposit from them. And when they close their business or sell it to someone else, or if they've had 2 years of payment, they get that deposit back.
Gotcha. I just saw that they sold it, so
Okay.
must have been what it was. Gotcha. Thank you.
Are there any other items on the bills list or the prepayments that we need to discuss? Any other questions? Okay, we don't need a motion on those, do we?
We do. Yes.
We do?
Yes.
Then I'll call for a motion to approve the bills and payroll.
I so move, Harry.
John?
No, second.
Motion, and Paul seconds. All those in favor? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried to approve the bills and payroll. Thank you. Previous meeting minutes. Those are the minutes from March 14. Can I get a motion to approve those?
Move to approve
minutes?
as is.
As is?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll second it.
John seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, minutes from the last meeting are approved. Financial reports.
Presented to you tonight are the February financial statements as well as the March cash reports. Are there any questions?
Any questions regarding the financials? Motion to approve? Or
Those are just informational.
those are just information pieces? Okay. Good. Then our next meeting date is May 9th. Okay. Any suggested items for future agendas? Nate, John, Paul? I have none. Okay. And there being no further business, I need a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
John?
Second.
And Paul, seconds, to adjourn this meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And we are adjourned.